everybody, welcome to episode 39 of our Music Talk Live, and I see the room is filling up a little bit, so I hope you can hear me. I had a couple of problems as I was trying to do something for one of you guys, and I think I screwed something up. So please confirm that you can hear me, so I'm not sitting here talking to myself, and then we'll get started. And of course, as always, please do say hello and let me know who you are, where you're from, and all the cool stuff. All right, so today's video is going to be pretty interesting. It's going to guide your studies for, truly understanding music theory, and it will introduce a few subjects that we'll develop in future videos. All right, so today's I'll talk a little bit about the details, but it's going to be more of and about what is truly important for a musician, especially a guitarist, to learn as far as theory goes. The basic idea is that as much theory as the more you know, the better, but you don't have to know everything. So through the years, with probably, certainly hundreds of students, I've figured out, I think, the 3 or 4 things. I call them the 4 pillars of music theory, and I'm going to share them with you, even though I think I mentioned them before, but there's a bunch of new people all the time. So we're going to go over them in detail, all right? And again, please let me know if you're actually hearing me. That's my main concern. And what else? Well, before we begin, I will go over a couple of things. Hello, Ray. What's up? Good to see you. I got something for you today. Not maybe 100% what you thought, but I managed to plug it all in. But as I was plugging it in, my microphone stopped working, so I had to revert back, but I'm going to show it to you, and then I will play a little bit of this for you, all right? Because I know you requested this many times, and so this is it. This is one of the Rockman sustainers. I have a lot of these modules in a system, but I'm currently adding expanders to the digital input of my sound card. So these are not all plugged in, but I took one out of the system, and here it is. So I'm going to play it for you a little bit. It's a bit noisy. I have 2 of these of the same module, and this one I didn't refurbish or anything. I didn't change anything on it, so it still has all the old condensers, and so it's a bit noisy, but it's pretty good. It's the one I used in the solo of Lights and Shadows. Actually, it's this one. All right, so I'm gonna play a little bit of that for you. But as far as news go, what can I say? Well, the 1 chord a week series keeps going. There's going to be a lot more chords. I recorded a few of them, and I wanted to just go over why. If you go to the playlist, you'll find a lot of videos. It's not like I'm keeping them for you, because I had a few questions. I'm not keeping them from you. Those videos are recorded. Some of them are edited, few of them, but most of them are just a lot of them are just recorded, and then I put them up on the cloud, so they're safe, and I don't have to hold them onto my iPhone or my computer, and so they're not edited, and some of them are, some of them aren't, some of them are missing diagrams, some of them are missing the cards, some of them are missing the description. So I work on them as I go along, but I really don't want to skip any weeks. Okay, so that's why there's a bunch of chords that are already recorded, and you can't see them, but you will be able to see them every Tuesday, right? So even if you see there's a bunch of them, I'm not keeping them from you. It's just that I'm working on them. It's a long series, and I think I recorded about 18 or 19 of them, and they will be coming out in the next few weeks, and I'll do more. Who's there? Guillermo. Hi, Andre. Saludos from Colombia. Beautiful. And Jenny. What's up, Jenny? Good to see you. All right. And what's to talk about today? Well, did you guys get this? I know you did, but if anybody here is new, get this book. It's 100% free. There's nothing, no registration, no email. I don't want anything. I'm just giving this away, and it's a little contribution to those of you who are trying to learn the guitar and to get an idea of what all the technique is about, because you learn all the techniques and then you go like, what do I do with them? Well, here's an example or 21 examples of what you can do with a bit of technique, a bit of knowledge of chords, scales, and so on. And it's pretty interesting. Got a lot of good comments on it, so just go out and get it. There's a link down here. It's the free book, okay? And then next to it, there's going to be the legato and the alternate picking. Now, if you're serious about technique, you can get those, all right? But those are only 10 euros each, and they last you a lifetime, so I think it's fair. But even so, you can get the free one for nothing, all right? And I think you should. Now, let's just play this little thing, because That Is Art has been asking me for so long, and I've ignored him. So I'm going to show you what it sounds like. Let's see. the effects are not the effects from the Rockmans. Hear all the harmonic stuff that's in there. This is the Rockman, and it's in the distortion stage now. If you go back to the clean one, let's see. If I talk to you, I can't hear what I'm playing, so I'm going to mute my microphone. This is the clean sound. So yeah, this is the usual clean sound. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. You know, it's very old. This is from 88. So March 28. Look at that. It's almost exactly 32 years old. 34 years old. No, 30. What year are we in? 2021. It's almost 33 years old. And nothing have been changed on it. Nothing. No, nothing. All the components are old. Some of them are dead probably, but it still works. And it's pretty cool. And then you can get the distortion one. This is the edge sound. And then when you go higher with distortion 2, that was the edge, this is distortion. You can use a filter as a cabinet. Light and shadow was like this, right? I played that solo with this one. Yeah, not the most responsive amp of all, but it worked, yeah. Let's see, sounds amazing, very good. Hi, hello Jim, good to see you. That module would be a pleasure to have. Oh yes, it is actually. You know, I bought a lot of them by the same guy, and you know they were broken. A lot of them. I said, okay, I'll give you nothing. Oh well, not nothing. I give him a little bit of money. I took all of them, and then I refurbished them. It's just called this is the sustainer. There's a few of them. There's the distortion generator. This is the sustainer, and it's kind of an amp. It's basically an amplifier. That's basically what it is. It's an amp and a preamp, and then you can use it as that. You can record straight. It's the one that Tom Scholz used, correct, in Boston. And so yeah, you can certainly hear that sound. Let me play it again for you. I don't know, whatever. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's for you, that is art, or Ray, better said, correct? Okay, so this is the Rockman sustainer. If you want to look it up, I don't know if it's in focus, but Rockman sustainer. There's a few of them. It's one of the modules. I think this was the kind of the top of the line module. Let me just switch it off because it's very noisy. Move back to the Kemper, and we're gonna get started, I think. Jenny, you tried the free packet. I have a long way to go. I'm terrible at doing licks. That's fine. That's kind of what it's there for. You play with it, you know, do whatever you want. But I think it's going to be pretty cool if you master a few of them. You can see what happens. And you guys that have the books, alternate picking and legato, then you have a way of using the technique in a smart fashion. Because there's a risk when you study technique that you just play exercises all day, and that's how you play, because you play what you play, right? So if you play technique all day, that's what you're gonna end up with, just a bunch of technique that goes nowhere. So that's why I shared this little PDF of 21 licks. It's not an ego trip, it's just that they're my songs, so I can use them. And also I kind of know what I did almost when I recorded them, and so I'm able to be precise. And if you guys ask me questions, I can tell you exactly, because I can just look it up or think about it, and I'll say, okay, I did exactly this and I did that. This is what was hard. This is what was easier. So that's why I use my own music. All right. And such a nice clean sound. Much appreciate you giving us a sample of the sounds. Oh yeah, I'll do something way better. All right, I'll do something much better as soon as I put it all out, because it's all in a system and it's not plugged in. Okay, so let's begin. So today. Oh, by the way, if you're new, please, all the good stuff. Let me play the animation for you. I feel bad asking for this stuff, but it is really useful. So I'm just going to put it there, watch it, and if you want, you can do that, all right? So let's begin, all right? Let's start with the music theory thing. Do you even need music theory? Well, that's a question I've been asked all the time by students. But usually the answer, they already know it. Students come and they go like, I want to get better, and I want to become a better musician, and I move my fingers, but I don't know what to do, and I know my scales, and I know these, I don't know those. It's pretty much always the same thing, and I know perfectly what it's like, because that's what I would do. I started out, they threw me, at the deep end of the pool. When I was 6 months into playing guitar, or 4 months, I was already in a band, and we were playing, getting paid. So it was just keeping my head above water, and that's all I did. I was just playing. And when you do that, you don't really have time to look at the details, right? So can I get through the gig? Can I play? Can I even fool some people into thinking I'm good? And that was it. With time, you realize when you start writing music, you start branching out into other things. You realize how much stuff you don't know, and you realize why you think you should know it. Okay, so that's a problem, right? Something's missing, and I think you all know what it is. Like, for example, this happens with chords. Students come and they go like, I don't know what I should learn, because I'm trying to write music and I write to write songs, and I only go back to my C major and my D minor, and I don't know. They know they need chords. They just need somebody to tell them, but they do already know. And theory is the same thing. You all kind of know what's missing. But I've kind of, through the years, I kind of put it all in a little set of things that you should and must know. And I'm thinking actually of writing a book on this. But today I'm just going to introduce you to the concept, and you let me know if it's if you agree or not. Biggie Cheese, hello there. Are you new? Can you please give a shout out to my friend Nick Gurr? Okay, all right, of course. Nick Gurr, good to see you. This is Andre and my friends here on YouTube. So come and join us next time. And hello also to your friend Biggie Cheese. Biggie Cheese, I think you're new here, so welcome, you too. Okay, so what else? Let's begin. So music theory, do you need it? You need it if you think you need it. Usually you get to that point after a few years, because especially nowadays I figured that with YouTube and all that, people would know everything, and it's not true. I see hundreds of students actually, and well, not, I've seen hundreds, but I see still dozens, pretty much, and new ones. And they all have the same problem. They know the information is out there. And when I was starting out, the problem was that we didn't have the information. So you stole a chord from a guy, and then you stole a lick from a magazine, or maybe you saw somebody play live and you went like, okay, fret 7, 8, and 10. All right, so we go back home and do it. So you had fewer or less information, but then you had time to assimilate it. Okay, and that was extremely important. It wasn't ideal, of course, but it was for those of us who didn't have lessons. But it was better, because everything you did grab, you had to spend time with it, because that's all you had, right? So if you learn a new chord, you didn't know when you will learn a new one. And so that was one of the benefits of starting out like I did. Nowadays, there's lots of benefits of being able to go on YouTube and listen to an idiot like me telling you all the stuff you need to know. But at the same time, it's because very hard to process. And that's why I did the 1 chord a week. That's why I'm doing it, because it's only 1 chord every week. And I'm tempted, I'm very tempted to do, okay, today let's do 5 chords. And let me show you why if you play this note here instead of there. But, I kind of have to restrain myself, because I understand that one of the dilemmas in today's world is having so much information that you don't know what to do with it. And, you become so smart that you're dumb. That's kind of what happens. At least, practically, not that you're dumb, but, you at a practical level, you become dumb. And so eventually you realize, okay, what it is that I need to know. So my suggestion is always this: keep going if you want to, without theory. If you have a resistance to theory, which is really unfounded, and I had that when I was starting out, because I was very much into a lot of bands that didn't really sound like, except for Queen, but I was really into AC/DC, and of course I didn't know then what I do know now, that they know exactly what they're doing, but to me they were kind of a randomly thing. And so I don't mind you doing that. You start doing that, but when you get to this point that you log on to my videos and then you go look for stuff, and you go look for a good book, and you go look for this and that, then it's time to do it. And if you're doing it, my suggestion is to do it properly, and you get behind it, because otherwise you get frustrated, because music theory is something extremely easy and simple once you have it. See, once you know everything, or pretty much everything about theory, everything sounds extremely simple, and you go like, how could I be such an idiot? It's so easy. But as you're looking from the bottom up, then it seems insurmountable. So make a plan, and I will help you out today, and it will work, right? So do you need it? Yes, I think you do need it, unless you're doing something that's extremely 100% specific. I've had students who were professional classical guitar players, and they wanted to branch out, and they were masterful at their instrument, and they had no idea what to do. They had no idea. So they were at a great level on one thing, but absolutely zero on the other. So if you're just a performer of other people's music, you might actually get away with just performing the music. You don't need to know the theory, okay? Although a lot of great classical musicians, they're also conductors, so they know all that. Okay, so the basics. This is before we get to the 4 pillars. I think you should know these few things, okay? And I'm going to be quick, but basically you have to know your note names. You have to know your 12 notes chromatically. You have to know how to manage them with sharps. You have to know how to manage them with flats. You have to know how to manage them going up and coming down. So basically C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. You have to be able to do it backwards. You have to do it with flats, C, D flat, D, E flat, E, F, G flat, G, etc. And then down too. You have to be very agile with the names. And then you have to understand a few things of standard notation, of musical notation. So you have to know where if you have a score, you have to know this is a G, that's a B. Even if you kind of have to fish for it, eventually you'll master it, but you do need to know your rudimental notation. So you need to know what a D is and where it sits on the score. And you should be able to read in both treble clef and bass clef. All right, you can skip the others for now, C clef and all that, but you do need your treble and bass, because everything you do will eventually end up there. Also, a lot of theory is based on classical music. A lot of it comes from there, even advanced and exotic sounding theory, jazz theory. It's all rooted in a lot of late 19th century music from classical music when it was codified. And that was also done resting on everything that was done in the classical era. So you do need to know your bass clef and treble clef, because you'll find a lot of information written out for piano, okay? So those are really the things you should know. And then another thing that's here in the basics, it's a basic understanding of rhythm. So of rhythm, not only that like you can follow rhythm, but you need to understand the subdivisions of the basic values. So you need to understand, quarter notes, 8 notes, 16 notes. You should understand triplets and other kind of stranger subdivisions. You don't have to go too far, but you do need to understand the subdivisions of measures into, for example, 4 beats and what each beat represents. And 3/4, 2/4, maybe even 7 or 5/4. Simple stuff. You don't have to get to the crazy stuff, but you do need to understand it, because a lot of theory is based on, or at least rests on, the fact that you know when to use each thing. So, for example, if a chord has a specific function, that function might belong to a certain part of the measure or of the phrase or of the motif. All right. So that's one thing I would do. So note names, rudimental notation, and I would certainly get a pretty good understanding of rhythm. And for rhythm, again, I mean understanding the value of notes and their relationships with each other, what a triplet is, and how a triplet fits into only one beat, if it's a quarter note triplet, and so on. So that's something you should figure out. And I'm not against doing videos on this stuff, but today I'm just going to give you all the stuff you need to know. I won't teach you everything. I'll be here for like 3 days. All right, but this is what I would do. Puerto Rican Beast Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan. Would you recommend the Jazz Theory book? Yes, actually, we talked about this by Mark Levine. It's a great book. I have it. It's not one of my go-to because I think I got to it a bit late and I kind of knew a lot about theory already, but it's certainly a great book. You can't go wrong with it. If I may suggest a video, just a few weeks ago, we did a live stream on my favorite music books, and there's quite a bit of theory on those. So depending on what it is you like more or less, I would also suggest the Schoenberg books, Piston, Persichetti. There's a few of those in that video, all right? So maybe you can check it out, Jonathan, all right? So let's get to the 4 pillars of music theory. Okay, so these are the 4 pillars that I've identified through the years. And it's true that they're not written in stone and I'm no authority on music theory, but through many, many years of playing and many, many, many years of teaching, I've realized that with these 4 things, there's pretty much nothing that it will escape you. You won't know everything with this, but you'll be able to always walk your way back, because theory becomes complicated when you, like for example, if you don't know anything about theory and we sit down and I teach you C major, even if you don't know what a root is and what a third is, you don't know that, but I can teach it to you today. I can sit you down for 30 minutes or an hour. That's what I do, right? Some of you are my students, you know that. And you go, I'm going to show you what this is, and I'm going to show you what that is and what that is. With those 3 things, you'll be able to understand why a C major sounds like C major. You'll be able to understand why any major will sound like a major, and so on. So that's no secret. But if that's a bit shaky, you can go home with that and work on it. But then if this is not ready, and next week I'm going to show you another chord that adds 2 different notes. If this foundation is not solid, you'll have a hard time with this too. And you won't be able to walk your way back because this is shaky as well. And then if I add another one, then you're screwed, right? Because you are at a level where there's no foundation for you to rest on. So these are the 4 foundations that I found that then will allow you to always have something to walk your way back to, okay? Certainly you shouldn't stop here, but with these 4 things, there's nothing you cannot understand. There's no scale in the world that you won't be able to understand, given that you sit down and you work on it, okay? So that's the point of the 4 pillars. Not that it's everything you need, but it is everything you need to get to everything else, okay? So, and this is what it is. You have to know the intervals, so you have to know every distance from every note to every other note. That sounds daunting, and it's pretty simple actually, but you do need to know that from C to E it's a major third, and you have to know whatever, you know, from whatever you want, from A flat to C it's also a major third. But if you go from C to E flat, that's a minor sixth, and if you go, that's what I mean. You have to know everything, all the distances to all the notes from every note, because that's all you'll find. All you'll find is a bunch of notes together with other notes. If it's a chord, you'll have them like this. If it's a scale, you have them like this. If it's a chord progression, you have them like this. But it's always the same thing. It's always distances within distances of notes. And that's what the intervals are. Then you should know the circle of fifths, which we talked about before. And the circle of fifths just give you the basic idea of the most fundamental scales, which are major scales, and how many sharps and flats they have. And it sounds trivial, but it's the most important thing you should know, because everything else is derived from the scales. Even the most exotic modes, they're all coming from there. As a matter of fact, most modes, even of the melodic minor and harmonic minor, are really slight variations of the regular modes of the major scale that comes with the circle of fifths. So that's why it's so important. Then, as a guitarist, you should know every single note on your fretboard. No buts, no no excuses. You have to know everything, all of it. You have to know this is a C, you have to know this is a E, you have to know this is a C sharp, you have to know this is an A, and you have to know this is a B flat. You have to know all of them like this. It should take you longer to say the name than it does to know it, all right? That's how good you should know it. You should know it in your sleep. You should know it without the guitar. You can go like, okay, whatever, what fret do you want? And you know the note, and you know it forward and backwards. You know it up here, you know it down there, every string. It's over. You know, the thing of knowing, oh, well, I know the sixth string and the fifth up to here, and then I think I know the first. That's over. That's done. If you want to know about music, you have to know your instrument. Most other instruments in the world don't allow you to do this. You can go to a piano and go like, let me play the 68th key, and you count 20 down. You can do that. You can do that, but the guitar allows it, which in the beginning is great. again, I'm not against people starting out with no theory at all. Actually, it's pretty beneficial. It frees you up. You know, that's why you play rock and roll, right? Not to follow rules, but when you want to know the rules, you need to know where everything is. This is your interface to the music theory, all right? So if there's no connection between the instrument and the theory you're studying, the theory stays there in your mind and it disappears, it evaporates. You have to be able to use it, and this is how you use it. So you have to know every note on every fret, on every string of your guitar, all right? If you don't like that, you pick the wrong instrument. You do need to know your notes, okay? I can't stress that enough. I don't want excuses, you know. Well, I'm kind of abusing you like I abuse my students. I know some of you are not my student, but that's what I would tell you. If you want to make excuses about this, you can. Well, I know this guy, he plays really well and he doesn't know notes. I don't care. You need to know the notes of the guitar. Besides, it's a self-respect thing. You bought an instrument and you should respect the instrument and yourself and the time you invest in the instrument. So know your notes. I can't think of no reason why you wouldn't want to know the notes of the guitar. You know, everything else, there's always a reason, but not with this. So please learn your notes. I'll help you out later. I'll tell you how. And finally, ear training. Ear training is the hardest of all, and that's why I put it last. It should be first in importance, but I save it for last because I know it takes a long time. It took me forever to be a good, to get my ear to a good point. I wasn't talented with it at all. I'm pretty much talented at nothing, really. But even the guitar, you know, I had to spend a lot of time practicing, and I still do. I practice and I work and I play a lot, and I'm always not second guessing, that's not true, but you know, I'm always thinking of, is this, you know, is not good enough. It's never good enough to what I have in my mind. But the ear was really awful. My ear was terrible. I couldn't hear a major chord from a minor chord in the beginning. And one day, nobody told me that. I just realized that how is it possible that I want to be a musician and I have no idea what everything sounds like, what anything sounds like. And so that's when it got started. And I took it very seriously. I worked many hours on it and I got better. A lot of people do a lot better than me, a lot faster. So don't be discouraged. It's just that I have this problem with my ear and now finally it kind of blossomed. But it took me a long time. So up until a few years ago, I was really in bad, my guitar playing was here maybe and my ear training was here. And no matter what I did, it never moved. With the guitar, I knew that if I kept working on things, I would get better, but the ear just didn't. So don't get discouraged. It happens to everyone. Maybe it will happen to you with the technique, and that's fine. It happened to me with the ear training. But so the ear training means that I know everything that I do, I know what it sounds like. I don't need the guitar, because if I play it on the guitar and I listen to it, it's reactive. I want to know what I'm doing before I'm doing it, and that's how you improvise and you compose music. You know what you want to hear, otherwise you're just going up and down the fretboard and playing your scales, all right? So this is it. Now we're gonna go into a little bit of detail for each of them, okay? But again, today is not like I'm gonna show you everything about this. You know, we'll make separate videos, or you can search me out as a student if you want. Not that I'm not trying to get you all to sign up, but some of you have asked, and there's a link below. You can send me an email and I do lesson, and they can be only one or sets of four. You know, it's whatever it is you want. But if you need to improve on this and you don't want to do it by yourself, you can certainly email me or find a good teacher. Of course, there's plenty of people who can help you out. That is Art says probably the first experience of ear training is learning to tune it. Yes. Tuning it is, you know, in the beginning I couldn't hear anything. I didn't know if it was in tune, if it was not in tune, why was it in tune. My ear was really terrible. But anyway, intervals, first pillar, it's extremely important. You have to know every possible relationship between every possible note and another note. So basically you have to know that from a C to an E has a sound, and that same sound will be reproduced as long as you maintain the distance of a major third. You'll find that sound everywhere on the spectrum. So you will find it between a B and a D sharp, you'll find it between an F and an A, you'll find it between whatever it is, a B flat and a D, and so on. You have to know that, okay? Because that is what builds pretty much everything. Scales, chords, even chord progressions, songs, they're all based on distances, okay? Because as a matter of fact, you'll know that if you have a song and your singer can't sing it, you can just tune it down a half step or a whole step, and nobody's the wiser. But you know, you've changed all the notes basically, but you haven't changed the distances. You haven't changed the intervals and the relationship between them, and that's why they still work. So I will give you an exercise, but this is what I would give you today, just to give you an idea. Well, let me just get rid of this. This is just an example, of course. These are all the intervals that you will find in C major. sorry, not in C major, from the root C. And you have your minor second, major third, perfect fourth, and those are the notes. As you can see, these notes progress chromatically from C to the next C if I did the Excel thing well, but they go one half step at a time. And you could count your way up through everything, but that's a waste of time, and you won't be able to predict what it sounds like. So you do need to understand the relationship, for example, between this C and each one of these notes, okay? Now, of course, this is just a C. You should have one of these for D, for E, for F, and then also for all the sharps and flats, and that's how it works. That's really what it is. And also one other thing you should focus on, and we will discuss it if we ever do a video on this, and I think we will. I think it's very important. But one thing all my students have to do, they have to know all the right names. So the minor third of D has to be F, the minor third of D flat has to be F flat, it cannot be E, and so on. And it's beyond the scope of this video, but intervals have to be learned and properly, right? So this is the first thing. If you have questions about this, I can predict your current level and all this stuff. So just write in the chat or write in the comments when the video is done. Probably the comments is better because it's always there, and the chat sometimes people don't watch it. So if you have questions to pose me or everybody else, I would do that. So intervals, this is the first thing. And of course you can search this out by yourself. You don't need me to do all this. The information is out there, but I will give it to you eventually. Or get a good teacher. Good teachers are very important. And the circle of fifths is the next thing. We did talk about the circle of fifths, if you remember. This is the circle of fifths. Let me get out of the way. So this tells you for each major scale, in this case, there's many circle of fifths. This circle of fifths has to do with major scales, and it tells you how many sharps and how many flats each of these have. Okay, so this is like set up like a clock. So if you look at it that way, it's 0 sharps, 1 sharp, 2 sharps, 3 sharps, all the way down to 6, and the same happens the other way. And we did a video on the circle of fifths, so I will link it, or just search it. It's pretty easy on my channel, and there's quite a bit more information on the circle of fifths. But basically what this says is if you're in D flat major, you have 5 flats, and these are the flats, so B, E, A, D, G. If you are in E major, you have 4 sharps, and these are the sharps, F, C, G, D. Okay, so that's basically what happens. Why is it so important? Well, because everything else in music, pretty much everything, starting from the minor scale to the modes, and to all the modes of all the other scales, like melodic minor and harmonic minor, can be looked at as variations of the regular major and minor scales, which are included in this circle of fifths. The circle of fifths represents all diatonic scales, so major, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. It's all in here if you know where to look. And from there you can access pretty much all other scales. If a scale is hard to reach from this, if a scale is difficult to reach from this, you can reach it from the intervals you studied earlier. It's that simple. So if you have a scale like the tonal scale, like the whole tone scale, that scale is whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step. Now it won't fit in this circle. It's pretty hard to match with any of these scales, but then it's just a set of whole steps. And if you've done your intervals, it's done. All right. So the circle of fifths is key. And let's see, Jim, I'm never sure when to call a note sharp or flat. Okay, I will answer that for you right now. Probably need to print out a circle of fifths to learn intervals. Well, don't confuse the two, Jenny. They're a bit different, but we did a video on the circle of fifths, so you can start with that, and then I'll do one on the intervals. We did a video on how to find intervals on the guitar, which, this stuff is really, sometimes it's hard to manage all this stuff on one video, because some students take a long time to get through this, and it's normal, completely normal. But Jim, you get that answer, but let me answer it again for you. So if you have any interval, any distance between notes, right? Any distance. The first thing you have to do is identify what interval you're looking for. Let's say you're looking for a third, okay? So any note you're in, it doesn't matter what note you're on. Let's say you're in B, okay? And you want did I say third? A third? You just count B, C, and D. So the quantity of the interval, it's going to be that. It's going to be a D, because it's literally 1, 2, 3, B, C, D. Now the D is set. You can't escape the D. You can't modify. You can't do anything. It has to be a D. But now if it's a major third, you will know eventually that a major third is 2 whole steps. Or better said, it's 4 chromatic steps. So you have to go like this. You go, okay, B to D, the names are set. I can't modify the B and the D. The B is my exit, my starting point. It's my root, and the third of B is by force is a D. I can't modify it. Now let me see, what D do I need? If I need a D flat, a D natural, or a D sharp, which one do I need to make sure that it's 2 whole steps apart from the root? So I literally can go like this. B, C is the minor second, C sharp is the major second, D is the minor third, but I was looking for a major third, so still within the Ds, I have to give it one more step, which will be a sharp. So D sharp will be my major third. I cannot call it E flat. If I call it E flat, the sound will be correct, but the name will be wrong because B, C, D, E. It will be some kind of fourth, and we're not looking for a fourth, especially, for example, if we're building a chord, you will need a major third, all right, not a diminished fourth. That's basically the idea, but you know, that's what it's like. So once you have every major scale and diatonic mode on the circle of fifths, and you know exactly what you're doing, pretty much every other scale in the world can be compared to one of these that you know perfectly, and maybe you'll modify one note here, one note there, and you'll have that. So for example, all the modes of the melodic minor scale, there's a lot of really complicated modes as far as names go. There's only one note difference from a major scale. So if you know your major scale, you just modify one note. And what note is that? One that fits your interval table. Okay? It really is that simple. Now, fretboard knowledge, there's not much to say here. Every note on every fret, on every string, that's it. And I will show you how I do it and how I teach my students. It will have to be quick, but I will show you what I suggest people do. All the notes of the major scale you choose have the same sharp or flat notation, I think. Yes, but that only works with the diatonic scales. Some of the other ones, from melodic minor and harmonic minor, you will find actually mixed sharps and flats. So be careful with that, Ray. So, well, we don't need the guitar to play actually, but most people memorize notes by going up the strings. So they go up the 6th string, up the 5th string, up the 4th string, and they work their way up. So they get here, they kind of forget what was there, then they go to this string and they forget that one. Okay, so what I realized long ago is that it's much better to learn one note at a time. So what I do is have my students learn all the E's on the fretboard, and then once they've mastered the E, they go to A, then they master the A and they move on to D. The reason I'm following the open strings, I don't want them to do E, F, G, because then they start seeing, oh, F is 1 fret higher than E, so I don't have to study it. And that's a trap, because you never know what note you want to go to. If every time I need an F, I have to think of E, you know, I'm screwed, it's too long. So they go through all the notes. And usually, you know, in fourths is good, like E, A, D, G, B, then we do F, then we do C. That's all 7 naturals. And then you add all the sharps and flats. So basically you get to a point where you go like, okay, well, I know my E's, I know my A's, and I know my D's, right? That's already quite a bit. And slowly, it's not that when time comes for a D sharp, you think, oh, it's between the D and an E. It's not that. That's not advisable. But what happens is the fretboard becomes, you know, the fog starts to lift. You don't have this big blob of nothing, and you start seeing notes everywhere. And it's a mental thing. It's not difficult. And so by the time you do 4 or 5 notes on the fretboard, every other note just kind of falls into place, which is kind of amazing, because you've never kind of thought of D flat on the fretboard and they all fall into place. It becomes, you know what it becomes? It becomes unescapable. You know, first in the beginning you have to force it. You force yourself to watch it, but eventually you go like, well, of course, there's no other way. This couldn't be any other way. This here couldn't be anything other than a D flat. It's impossible. It's impossible that this wouldn't be an F sharp. And this has to be a D. There's nothing else that this note could be. And when you get there, it becomes a lot easier. And as a matter of fact, that happens with everything, even with ear training. Eventually you go like, of course, this, ta-da, It has to sound like that. It couldn't sound like anything else, you know, but to get there, it is a bit of work, but that's the idea. And it works pretty much with anything in music, and not only, but sorry, I got carried away. And so that's what I would do, fretboard knowledge. And finally, ear training. Wait, where am I? Okay, wait, I disappeared. Let me see if I can add, wait. Let's see if I can add myself back. What happened here? Video. There you go. And there you go. I'm back. All right. So the sound of all intervals, scales, and chords. So basically, we take everything we learn from the first 3 steps, and we learn how to put them in our mind. And it works 2 ways. There's 2 main functions in ear training. There's 2 big, what do you call it? Two big departments. One of them is recognizing sound, and the other one is predicting sound. And it's not like one is harder than the other to me. They were both hard, but the idea is that if I hear something, I recognize what sounds make up that bigger sound. So if I hear somebody play a chord, I do it with my students sometimes. I say, okay, play anything. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Play any chord in any sequence. You can play anything. And I will jam on it, and it will all sound pretty good. There will be no strange sound, no out of place notes. Everything sounds good. And they go like, wow, that's crazy. But the reason everything sounds good is that I'm just listening to what they play, and I go like, okay, I'm recognizing these sounds, so let me just play them on the fretboard. Okay, so it's a mix of recognizing sound and producing sound. And that's what ear training is. So sometimes what you want is to hear something in your mind and be able to play it. That is producing sound. So I hear da-dum, da-da-dum, and I know, okay, that's my third, da-dum, that's a fifth, you know, and I can do that. And it becomes quicker and quicker, and when you have your hands on the instrument, it's even faster. But then when you hear something you're playing, then you can make decisions. So if I have a strange chord, I go, okay, this chord will work great with that. It's not theory, it's actually hearing it. So I hear this chord, and instead of hearing a ball of sound, you start developing the ability of listening to each note separately. And these notes, what are they? They're intervals. And if you know the intervals, you see where this is going, right? And that's the idea. So ear training is extremely important, and it's pretty hard to do, actually. All the notes of the major scale you choose have the same sharp or flat notation. Oh, sorry, that was I already read that comment. Okay, so this is all the stuff that I think is extremely important. It might feel to you that we've been talking for 40 minutes and I haven't taught you anything, but nowadays it's not really important to, it's not difficult to find information. You can find some great books on all this stuff. You can listen to me talking. You can find a great teacher who will teach you this properly. And but these are certainly important things. So if you have a teacher and you've never broached these subjects, then you might want to bring it up. I don't want to screw your relationship with your teacher. He will say, why you listen to an idiot on YouTube who thinks he knows more than me? But if you're studying by yourself, or if you have a teacher, these are things you should explore, all right? At the risk of sounding, I don't want to sound like I know everything about this, but it is so important. You have to know these 4 things, and then you can start branching out. If you memorize a bunch of stuff, it will kind of stay here for a little while, and then poof, and then it just evaporates, because you won't be able to use it. You won't be able to use it until you understand what it is you're doing, okay? And understanding is very different from memorizing, as you all know. I wish so much that I could do that. Pick a note on the guitar that I'm hearing. I am the worst at finding the notes, or even the simplest riff. You know somebody who okay, yeah, so a quick parenthesis here. That's a good point, Ray. So perfect pitch is different than relative pitch. Perfect pitch means you hear a sound and you know that it's a D. I don't have that. I sometimes it works with me, but I certainly can't trust my perfect pitch. I don't trust it, and I don't. Relative pitch is, it doesn't really matter what notes you are hearing, as long as the intervals you are recognized. So the example I always give is this. Okay, so you all know what I just played. I played Beethoven, but is this symphony of Beethoven's written in this key? Or maybe was it written in this one? Or maybe was it written in this one? It doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter. What you recognize is the interval, the relative pitch, the relationship between the first note and the second, and of course the rhythm. That's why I said in the beginning, rhythm is so important. So that's the difference. And I have relative pitch. I've really worked on my relative pitch so that when I play a note, I know what all the other notes around it will sound like, okay? With a certain degree of, certainty, all right? And so that's the idea, and that's what I have. But as soon as I play a note, that's the other thing. If you play a chord, then I don't know what chord it is. I don't know. I will know that it's a major chord, maybe. Maybe I will know if it's a flat 9 chord. I will know that. But even if I get a note that is wrong, I will make it fit. Okay, because I will say, okay, well, okay. So he's playing that, I'm playing this. There's a way that I can work this into his chord. I can pretend he's playing a dominant. I can pretend he's playing whatever it is, an augmented chord. I can do all kinds of stuff. I can use it as chromatic and move up, you know. And from there, then I have everything. As soon as it switches or she switches chord, I will just jump in with another note that fits. And that's a great exercise. Drives you nuts though in the beginning. Girasol Tostado, hello there. Why a lot of great guitarists change or play another tune? I suppose you mean tunings, correct? They tune the guitar different to prove that they're good, I think. But what happens with the intervals there? That is such a great comment, because I always think the same thing. Like, isn't this hard enough? Isn't it hard enough that you have to tune it differently, you know, or put more strings on it? But I know what you mean. I think some people enjoy the sound of open tunings. Some of them are beautiful. I've experimented with them. The thing is, I think I'm a bit lazy, and I always end up with my 6th string and regular tuning. And I think there's so much I still need to know that I don't want to move so many variables here and there, you know, so I'm sticking with the regular tuning. But I think a lot is to be found and discovered with open tuning, so I would check it out, you know. Now there's people who tune down a whole step or a half step. That's sometimes out of necessity. Maybe your singer is getting older and you have to lower it, or sometimes it's just a thicker sound, but the relationships are the same. One thing I would say that's easy to manage, Girasol, is that is tuning the 6th string down a whole step. The drop D, a lot of people do that, so they keep all the guitars set up as usual, but this string will go down a whole step to D. And that's pretty easy to manage. It's nothing strange, and it will give you a different sound. But to me, all my guitars are tuned the same way, and sometimes I feel guilty about it. Like, oh man, aren't you supposed to be a pretty good guitar player? You should be able to do all kinds of stuff with tunings. And I think I'm too lazy for it, or maybe I just don't have the interest. If one day the interest strikes me, then I will go nuts, and I will tune all my guitars differently and do all kinds of crazy compulsive things. But until then, you know, I just haven't experienced it. But here's all, I get the same feeling sometimes. Why are you all tuning it so strangely? This is actually a really good lesson. Well, great. Thanks, Jenny. Tune way down and practice gent. Man, you know, I barely know what gent is. I hear the word all the time, and I don't really know much about it, but I'm sure I'm missing out, as always. You know, when you don't know something, it's always your fault. But I just haven't had the time really to explore. So as I wait for more questions from you, I'm going to move on to the Q&A. So if you have questions, feel free. And in the meantime, what can I say? I'm thinking of a new series to add to the channel, but you know, these videos are so much work that even the 1 chord a week, you know, it's and I pretty much know everything I'm going to say because I know these chords like the back of my hand. But you know, it just takes a long time to record them and set the lights, and then. But I'm thinking of doing something else. What I wanted to do is maybe here live or as a new series of videos, go over the 21 licks. And that's, if I do it live, it's more manageable. If I do it as a prepared video, it's going to take me a long time. But I was thinking of doing something like that. If you would like me to show you each lick, let me know. Or maybe even some licks from the other books, because I know a lot of you have the books on legato and alternate picking. And as a matter of fact, if you enjoyed them, please leave a comment or two in the respective videos, because it will really help out. Okay, thanks. Gent is crazy. mostly fast playing. It's really its own genre. I think anyway, don't know what genre really. I mean, I know what it is, kind of, but I'm no expert. I couldn't tell you many players that play it, but I've been asked about it many times. And yeah. So anyway, if you have questions about what we did today, please let me know. And there's many things we can do in the future. In future weeks, we can talk about stranger modes of other scales, like we did of the diatonic scales. Or we could do all kinds of stuff. We could talk about these 4 pillars, even though those, I think, I'm afraid to say that these are better suited with you and a teacher, I think, than on a video, because it can be confusing. Question about technique. When playing legato, it's so difficult for me to play with time behind the guitar. Okay, the legato is weak no matter how much I practice, even for long stretches. That's wrong. Well, Girasol, I feel so... I really do not enjoy promoting my stuff, but if you have a look at the legato book, even if you don't get it, but I will give you a few tips anyway, all right? So you don't have to go and buy my book, but something like that is really important. If you practice legato in a crazy way, as a matter of fact, the introduction to the book says exactly what you're asking. Legato is a technique that is not very manageable, because most techniques, if you play slowly, and then you work your way up, even if your technique is not great, you will see great results. And maybe not perfect, but you will see good results. Legato is such a strange thing, because playing legato slowly is probably more difficult than playing it fast, but you do need to play slowly. So what I would do, Girasol, if you have problems, the thumb should stay behind. The thumb here will impede your legato. I sometimes do it if I'm playing mixed with a bend or something, but otherwise legato is like this, because the strength of the legato technique doesn't come from your fingers. The fingers are really flimsy things. They have little tendons here, they're fragile, they're prone to injury, so you don't want to stress your hand too much. As a matter of fact, by your message, I think, be careful. The strength comes from this part of the hand. This is pretty much with everything you play. You don't want to give all the responsibilities to your little tendons. You want to give it to the arm, and the arm moves this part of the hand. Okay, so bend your fingers a little bit and play legato like this. So you're not playing with your fingers, you're actually playing with your forearm, and that's very important. Now, if you do that, you need to start from something that's extremely simple. And my suggestion is, and that's why I said, that's what I do in the book, but you don't have, I would love for you to get the book, but it's not like my life will change, or yours hopefully might. But the idea is that you play only the first half of the technique. So practice only hammer-on. Only hammer-ons. I think my guitar is not playing. Wait, let me put it in the mix here. This one. Okay, so only hammer-on. So you see, I'm kind of working on all my possible combinations of hammer-on. Then you do the same thing with pull-off. Okay, you do the same thing with 2 techniques separately. That way you're not trying to extract all the strength of the hand, but you're just focusing on one movement. And even better, only one finger. When you're done with that, then slowly you move up to legato. And if you've done the homework, then you will be able to play slowly. So if I'm playing, for example, I don't know, anything, like a simple scale, right? And I repeat it. If I do this, and I can do it relaxed, then you're well on your way to improving your legato. But if you're practicing like this, okay, wait, I have to play slow, right? So then all you do is injure your hand, right? You need to have that first half of each technique. It's so important, and the reason is that when you do only hammer-on and only pull off, the pick is always doing half the work. So you're not giving all the responsibility to the left hand. You're always helping it You see what I mean? Now I can really focus. I don't know what you're hearing. If I talk at the same time, I have to keep the speakers off. But hopefully you're hearing a little legato thing. And I can play very slowly like this, or slower if I need to, and keep a perfectly tuned sound, timing, tone, attack, and I have no stress on my hand. And then when I do the opposite, I might find it harder, but I can still manage it because it's only one movement at a time. If this whole line is too difficult, then I will just do one finger. And then the other. And then both. Now maybe with all this done, I can do twice the two things at once. And I can feel relaxed, and then at that point slow practice will bring results. Otherwise legato is a pain in the ass, all right? And that's something that I really discovered when I did it myself, but also with students. They have such a hard time with it because they can't bring it down to their level. Legato is like, I'm here and screw you, right? So yeah. So girasol, I hope this works, and I hope that it helps you out, all right? But again, you can check out just the introduction video to the book, and you can probably glimpse at something of the book, okay? So with legato, it really works. Thanks for the answer. You're very welcome. If you have any more questions, now is the time, because we're almost at the hour mark, and I'm trying to keep it under the hour mark. As a matter of fact, I asked in a poll, and some people, fewer than half said that maybe these videos are a bit too long, but that's what the 1/4 weeks are for, because those are pretty short. So yeah, if you have any more questions, let me know. As always, this video will be up. It will be up forever, so you'll be able to watch it again. I must thank everybody who's been supporting the channel with the donations. There's a link down here if you want to participate. If you find these videos useful and you want to participate, you can do that, right? You don't have to. You don't have to, of course. This is open for everyone. But if you feel like it, you can do it. And if you would like me to say who you are, those of you who are doing a weekly or monthly thing, let me know. I'm always afraid of, privacy is a big thing nowadays. So, but I know there's a few of you here who are supporting the channel, and I really would like to say thank you. And would just like to see your right hand. Jenny, wait. Okay, I need the book. Yes, I'm sorry I sold you the book, Jenny. I was answering Girasol, and I sold you a book. But no, seriously, I think you'll get a kick out of it. It's 80-something exercises, and it will last you a lifetime. So that is art. You want to see my hand when you speed pick. My right hand. Okay, so okay, here's the trick. And when you play slowly, right? And you play fast, you should be doing the same movement. Otherwise, everything you practice slowly doesn't work, right? So if I'm performing and I'm playing my own music, then I will do all kinds of stuff. Angles and little picks upwards to just slap the string. I'll do all kinds of stuff. But if I'm just practicing picking technique, then if I play slow, I will play like this. You see, so the slow picks. You see that? The slow picks are still as close to the string as the fast ones. We all agree that when you play fast, you want the pick to go like this. Well, let me see. This is a string, right? You want the pick to not go 1 millimeter more than you need to above or below the string. So when you play slow, you have to do the same thing. A lot of people do this. They play slow, and then they play fast. And they can't find the bridge between them. But if you play slow like this, where I have no idea what I'm playing. Let me just, how can I do this? Okay, hopefully it won't feedback. So if I'm playing this, Okay, so everything I'm playing slow, I play exactly the same way as I play fast. Exactly the same way. The problem is, unless you are playing fast already, you don't really know exactly what you'll do when you play fast. So it's always a matter of play slow, but then always give yourself a minute or two of leeway and play a bit faster, even if it's not perfectly clean. And then go back and play slow. So you start getting a feel for it. And my heel of the hand is always resting on the strings. Okay? And, you know, I played some pretty fast things in my lifetime, and, you know, and everything I play on record is played live, so I play live too, and I play exactly, if I have to, I play exactly what's on the record. But I'm not the most technical guitar player, of course, in the world. I'm pretty average. But when you do need the technique, you must have it. So relaxation is extremely important, and the idea again of practicing slowly, exactly as you would practice fast. As a matter of fact, oh, Jenny, thank you so much. Jenny just gave us a little contribution here. Thanks, Jenny. It's very much appreciated. And, you know, I'll get a new camera or something. But the idea here is this. If I, what was I going to say? I forgot. I was saying that if I play very slow, what was I saying? Oh my God, see, that's the problem with doing live videos. I forget things sometimes. So, all right, I got it. What I always say, and I tell my students, and it worked a lot for a lot of them, is that imagine that you are a master guitar player. You're the greatest guitar player in the world, electrical guitar player. And your picking technique is out of this world. It's perfect. And you're playing a performance of your exercise, and you're like, just blasting through it. And now you go like, okay, somebody recorded me on videotape, playing extremely well, extremely fast. But you watch it at a quarter speed. So you're watching it very slowly, but the technique is the technique of a master player who is playing at extremely high speeds. And you're just watching it slowly, right? But you know that if you bring it up to speed, that technique will carry you all the way up to extreme speeds and extreme cleanliness in your technique. That's what I always tell my students. Imagine you're a master player and you're just being played back slower. And that's what I tell them. It works. It works. Do you ever use the wah pedal? Oh yeah, man, Jim. I play the wah pedal all the time. I'm surrounded by wah pedals. I got 3 of them on the floor. It's my favorite effect. The wah pedal and delay are my favorite effects. As a matter of fact, in any of my records, there's too much wah pedal. Yes, just at the point I begin to lose control of the speed, I slow down just a touch and use a metronome. That is good. That is right. That's exactly what you should do. Very good. Very good. Okay, so I think I could get a few questions answered. If there's anything else, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll adjourn to next week. And please give me some ideas. Yeah, we are on the way to 40 live streams. So if you'd be so kind as to give me some ideas on what to do next, I appreciate it. And I'll just wait a couple of minutes for your questions, and otherwise we'll stop. Indrajit isn't here today. I hope he got my CDs. He bought the 4 CDs, and I think he never got them. So it sucks. You know, COVID has affected so many things. But anyway, Indrajit, if you're watching this later, let me know. Don't feel bad about, let me know, and we'll send them back. We'll send them again. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm just going to close it then. How to practice vibrato. That's such a good one, Jim. I'm going to write it down. Vibrato. We're going to talk about vibrato. All right, great. Hammer on and pull off sometime in the near future would be great. Okay. You know, the thing is, I didn't kind of want to make a video on the techniques that are in my books, because I don't want to feel like I'm doing a 1-hour infomercial on my books. But if you guys want, of course, I'll do a little something on legato and vibrato. Certainly, Jim. That's a great idea. And vibrato is such a personal thing, but I will give you some pointers, and then you can ask me specific questions. All right, that's great. So what time is it? 7:35. I don't know what time is it in your end of the world, but here it's almost it's 7:30 p.m. So I think it's time to adjourn, and I will see you next week for something. Maybe we will do vibrato next week. Let me think about it. And there's a video on chords coming out this week, and on Tuesday as always. And I think it's going to be a pretty cool chord, I'm pretty sure. And so check it out on Tuesday at 5 p.m. It's always the same time and the same day of the week. Again, much appreciate the demo of the Scholz module, and again, much appreciate the lesson. Thanks. Yes, everyone have a great day. You're very welcome. Thank you for being here, and I will see you on the next one, all right? See you soon. Bye-bye.